You are going to have to work it out. And whatever your communication skill is, there's no perfect skill.
That's good.
It's how you formulate what works best for you, the both of you.
Right.
So that's really, and look at the two of them, introvert, extrovert. How are they going to make that work? And they do.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Stephen and Corey's Get It Together. I'm Stephen and...
I'm Corey.
Oh my gosh, this is my girlfriend.
Yeah,
She's become my girlfriend. She used to be my girlfriend when we first met, and then she became my wife. Now she's my girlfriend all over again, right?
That's right.
Hey, we are excited about this episode with a couple that you're going to fall in love with.
Yes.
I mean, they have a story that we feel so blessed that we're doing these podcasts and we're able to deliver to you the kind of content with respect to marriages that you will understand as the real deal, right? Mm-hmm. So today's guest, what do you think, Corey? What do you think?
I want to introduce you to them because I met this woman first before he did.
Right.
And I was fortunate enough to meet this woman and then her whole family, including her husband.
Uh-huh.
So
just awesome people.
Yeah, literally they have been like a second family for me. Our youngest daughter, actually helped with childcare with some of their younger ones. So she got to get to know this family too. It's a beautiful relationship. And that's how you meet people in life.
Yeah.
You just form relationships when you just get that click. That click. We were both, the wife and I were both in a networking group together and we just clicked, and it's been brilliant ever since. So with no further ado, we're going to read their bio before we introduce them. So you'll know their names. Georgia McDonald married a short 7 months after meeting 24 years ago. Wow. I'm excited about hearing that part. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Jim is an engineer responsible for...
Smart guy.
Yes. Yeah. Smart guy. Responsible for safety in nuclear facilities. And Georgia has a background in early childhood education. That's a no-brainer. Yeah. And is an entrepreneur and cosmetologist. Yes, she is. They are as diverse as... Yes, that's true. They are diverse as their careers. Jim is an even-tempered introvert and Georgia is a passionate extrovert.
How about that? Opposites attract, right?
Jim loves peace and tranquility while...
Probably George is flying off the handle about something.
Georgia loves excitement and meaningful engagement. They have five children ranging from 16 to 21.
That's beautiful.
Like Jim and Georgia, they have a broad span of interest ranging from technical to artistic.
Wow, that's great.
So with no further ado, Jim and Georgia McDonald.
We give to you the McDonald's. Yes. Jim and Georgia, welcome.
Yes.
Welcome to the podcast.
We are excited to have you and hear your story.
Yes.
Many people need to hear your story. 5 kids?
Yeah.
Yes. And was it 7 months? 7 months and got married? Yeah, let's start there.
And so like every couple, we hear how you met. We like to hear, both sides of the equation in terms of how you guys met. So who wants to start? How did you meet?
I should start first. Start with me a little bit, right? So, so I grew up in Vancouver, Canada, British Columbia. And, I was with a friend of mine and we were kind of talking about there's just no guys in Vancouver. And we were on a spiritual journey. So we had come to the States in the Washington state and we visited monasteries. So being Greek Orthodox, it was just a nice getaway to go with my friend and just get away from my parents, and drive down to the States. We always love driving to the States. And so there we are. We're staying for a few days. And this girl comes and I knew her father. He was a priest. I didn't know that her dad was a priest here in Knoxville a long time ago. So she knew Jim. So we slept in the same room, me and my friend and this girl. And I was like, there's just no guys in Vancouver. What am I going to do? All of Vancouver, no guys. So, and this is before we had it was like the Nokia cell phone. There was no, typing in somebody's email, texting. That part was really difficult. So I said, okay. She's like, I know 5 guys. I can pick one for you. I'm like, I just need one. So... So I gave her my email, but I said to her, I'm not going to have access to my email because I worked and work was coming around the corner. So I said, in September, I'll have access. Anyway, she told me about some other guy. Then she changed her mind. And one day in my inbox, I don't know who this person is. And it says, Jim McDonald, titled Introduction. And I thought, oh man, this is a virus. a note by the name of Jim McDonald entitled Introduction, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of close my eyes, do a prayer, open it, it's like, work computer. I'm like, okay, I'll help them or something. But clicked, and there was the introduction of Jim McDonald. And I was like,
Hold on, Georgia. You had an introduction to Jim. Who sent that to you?
Jim sent me that introduction.
So how did he know?
So she
explain that one.
Gave him my address, my email address. She handed it to him, and then he emailed me without me knowing who it was.
Now, it had been years since I had seen this mutual friend, so it was a little bit awkward. She's like, hey, I told this girl about you, and here's her email address. I want you to reach out to her. I'm like, oh my gosh. Why on earth am I going to send a random email to a random person halfway across the world? And I'm like, I haven't seen this girl in years, our friend Julie. And I'm like, how does she know what I'm even interested in? What makes her qualified to set me up with somebody else? So just out of just duty and responsibility and respect, is like, okay, fine, I'm going to send an email to this girl. I'm probably never going to hear anything back. And how very engineer of me just to title it Introduction.
Very engineer. Very formal.
I was like, oh yeah, it's a virus.
Yeah, so I followed through on the commitment and sent the email and wasn't expecting to hear anything back, and nor did I care to. I was actually hoping she wasn't going to write me back. But hey.
So Georgia, this is his bio, pretty much. He's giving you a bio on who he is.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. And then you read it and
I was like, okay. So something that was really important to me was being, Greek Orthodox and the church and Christ. And so I knew the family I wanted to raise needed to be centered around that, visiting monasteries. And so it was kind of our getaway to get a little bit more of God, from this world of ours. So that kind of narrowed down the amount of people that I could find that would want that. So I knew if I went to these monasteries, just visited, got my fix with God, somebody would also be visiting, a guy of some sort from somewhere. I would find him eventually, right? Because there was some common ground. And so kind of checked some of my answers. I'm like, okay, yep. And so
yeah, we both actually had a set of criteria before we'd even consider having any level of a relationship. But being God-focused, having similar morals and similar religious goals over our life was extremely important. Because
I want to interrupt here for a moment. You guys understand this. You should have a list.
Yeah.
You should have a list, whether it be mentally or physically written down, because you don't know what you're looking for, and you don't know when you walk into it if you don't have a list.
Exactly.
Yeah, and how beautiful that they're both Christ-centered. They're looking at God first in their life. And that we always talk about is a foundation of the relationship.
Yes,
for many people, have you seen on our podcast. If you don't have something, no foundation, you're in sinking sand.
Right.
So how cool is that? And here's the thing,
Georgia, compelling
Georgia,
values.
Yeah, you went on this trip to go to a monastery. I mean, you weren't going, well, you were going to look for a man, but you were going for more than that.
Just to get away, because it was a big feast day where a lot of people were going to be. It was just to get away before school was going to, school.
Spiritual reset.
Yeah,
there you go.
With my friend.
Yeah, I like that. That's good.
Yeah, with a friend of mine. And it was like, oh, we can go. And my parents were okay with that because they were on the stricter side. So I'm like, we can go on a road trip. This is great.
Yeah. And you went from Canada, you came into the States.
Yes. From Vancouver.
Wow.
6 hours.
And you drove to where?
Washington, which is
Washington State. Okay.
Past Seattle, past Yakima, probably an hour and a half from the border of the Vancouver, Washington.
Yeah.
Somewhere around
and
there.
Jim, you're coming from Knoxville to Washington State?
Actually, I've never been up to Washington State. So it was our mutual friend that just happened to be visiting.
I thought you were there
at the same time.
Yeah, he was friend.
Yes.
I thought you were there and she handed you the phone like you were. Oh, wow. Okay.
After that trip, our friend reached out to me and gave me the email address, Georgia's email address.
So we have visited different monasteries in the U.S., some that we overlap and some not. So he was also familiar with that kind of a setting. Yes.
Right.
That's cool.
So that's how it all began.
Yeah.
Then we kind of went back and forth a few emails, and then he wanted to call me, and I said, oh no, I'm not giving you my phone number because my parents will kill me. So I don't trust that you're not going to call me when I say not to call. So it took 3 weeks later, and I got his phone number. And, back then, was it *67 or *69? You can block your number, right? And so I did that, and I called him. I was out with a friend of mine.
Yeah, you were with your friend Vicky at a park.
At a park by the water.
Yes.
At 8 o'clock at night, my time, I think, or 7 o'clock. I don't know. And so here we are talking, and I thought he had a really unique voice. And we spent about 45 minutes on the phone, just going back and forth. Right.
Yeah, just getting to know
Wow.
each other. And then we each had our little checklists, and we kept looking for reasons to cut it off and to not talk to the other person again, because we were just sure this wasn't going to work out. But each of us going through our little checklists ended up realizing that we were passing each other's tests. And then
Wow.
So then
That's
fast
brilliant.
forward, the next phase for me, which was because I had some difficulty with my parents. So there's a definition we probably have to give. When we go to church, we have a priest, and we go to confession, and that priest becomes our spiritual father. So I had a very holy man who was my spiritual father, that Jim had the same. My test was, if my spiritual father blesses us to move forward, it doesn't matter if my parents become an obstacle. I know it's a God thing. So that was my next phase of a test. I'm like, I need to know if this is worth, I get attached to people. So is this worth doing this, or is this not worth doing this? I can't go back and forth. And so he came to visit. And so September 13th was the email of 2000. October 12th to the 16th, Jim came to visit. Long story short.
yes, in Vancouver.
In Vancouver. November 11th to the 13th, we went to the monastery in Arizona and got a blessing from our spiritual father to not only continue this relationship, but he said to get married, and to get married quickly.
That was pretty wild.
Yeah.
A couple more trips, but April we're married.
Yeah, so I came down for Christmas and New Year's. Jim came out for February. I came back in March for like a shower. And then April, we're married.
Beginning our 23 and a half years of chaos.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, as you advance the story, Jim, what's your mindset during all this? Where are you at emotionally and so forth?
I really wanted to make sure that I was picking the right person moving forward. And back to what I said, everything that I had wanted in a relationship from previous relationships and friends that I had a good idea what I wanted. And it was just so surprising to me so quickly that I could find somebody and we have the same overall long-term goals. Not everything was perfect, but we had that same alignment long-term. And
Right.
we both knew that moving into this was a permanent decision for both of us. We were going to make a commitment for life. And so,
Ladies and gentlemen, did you understand what he just said? That may be the magic, actually.
Mhm.
We were going to make a commitment
For life.
for life.
Yes.
Wow.
It wasn't, well, let's just see how this goes. Especially since they had the list. And like they
Right.
both said, they checked the boxes on the list.
Yeah.
So why not make it last for
That's
a
huge.
lifetime?
Yeah.
Sorry, Jim, go ahead.
No, I mean, but to that point, that's really the premise that helps us keep everything together. We've made this commitment. And if we have an argument, we need to end that argument. We need to get on the same page. We don't go to bed angry. We talk it out because we're not going to spend weeks or months mad at each other. We can't do that. And in that, our salvation is at our final goal together. And everything that it takes to achieve that is what we have to work through. And we have arguments all the time. We do not see eye to eye. We stink at communication. It's just trying to bring it back at the end of the day and make sure that we are still aligned and whatever it takes for us to move forward. It's quite humbling. And it's always a struggle and a journey.
It is.
But like I said, committed.
So what's beautiful about that is you hear we stink at communication, but they actually don't, because they're like, no, we're going to make this happen.
Yeah.
I mean, people who stink at communication, they do go to bed angry.
Yeah.
And here's something, when you have a issue and you just let it sit there, and then you just get more angry and you get hardened to it, and then you have another issue and you let that sit on top of it, then guess what? You go back to the first issue and go, well, if it wasn't for this one wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
And then you compound and you have this wall between the two of you, and there is no communication.
Yeah.
So the greatest thing is, we're going to get this done. We are going to communicate. We are not going to bed angry. I don't care if we go to bed at 3 a.m, but it's important because couples need to, especially you newly married couples, just understand that this is the beginning. You are going to have to work it out. And whatever your communication skill is, there's no perfect skill.
That's
I mean,
good.
it's how you formulate what works best for you, the both of you.
Right.
So that's really, and look at the two of them, introvert, extrovert. How are they going to make that work? And they do.
Yeah.
There's got to be some honoring. The both of you, I want you to talk about how you honor each other's personality, because Georgia is woo, and Jim is hello. How are you, Corey? Are things so? So how do you
The
balance?
yin and the yang.
Which is a beautiful thing. You need that, right? So how do you honor each other with that?
Goodness, I mean, back to me needing some peace and quiet. She gives me that time in the end of the evening to go and retreat quietly. Yet I understand her need for that, the deep and meaningful relationships that she develops, and I so encourage her outside of our marriage to spend time with her friends and to get what I actually can't give her. I try, but being an introvert, I cannot feed the energy that she needs, and I just make sure that she gets that from her friends, and we do the best balancing within our family. I mean, we are very diverse, and all of our kids are as well.
Right.
And there's so many times that our different communication styles will speak differently to each of the kids, and building that additional intimacy. I'm sorry, all over the place with this, but
No, it's good.
no, it all ties in.
It does. It all ties in. And then recognizing too what Jim can and cannot give me. So like I am more bubbly. I need that chit chat. He comes from work and he needs like some downtime. So he gets overwhelmed when I'm like, here's my,
I walk in the door. I've just had 10 hours at work and an hour of traveling each way. I am exhausted, and all I want to do is have a glass of water and just close my eyes for a couple of minutes and have that peace. And George is ready to download all of her drama from the day.
But recognizing that, I did make some close friends that were able, to give me that, right? And background, some of my Romanian friends are really that close. We feed off each other energy that then Jim could be like, okay, hey, So we have to respect each other's what we can give to each other and what we can't give to each other. And that took a little while to actually figure out because initially, you get married and you're like, well, this person's just like me. Well, because you're just, we too didn't have time to spend together to really get to know each other. We had the foundation, but we only had the telephone. Hey, how are you doing? There's only so much you can learn from the person on the telephone, right? We're both invested on the phone, but in person, we got to see that, when we got married. So there was some transition there. And if I had just realized some things quicker like that he can't give me everything I need. That's unrealistic, actually. Selfish too.
Yeah.
When we worked through that and figured out, some things, then it was easier to say, okay, this is not a bad thing if I need to have some of my friends to get, to give me what Jim can't give me, which is that talking,
Yeah. So how many years?
But wait a minute. I want to comment on something there. So you guys, we shared that they have 5 children. When I go over to Jim and George's home, it's not chaotic. It's not like, people say, well, you have 5 kids. It's a zoo. When I'm over there, and it's not like George is going, okay, everybody, Corey's coming over. It's just, she has created a sanctuary for her husband. When he comes home, I don't believe, I'm sure every night is not like perfect and everybody's quiet, but I have gone in there to their home when Jim's not at home. And I can tell you that I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, but I think that Georgia has created a home as a homemaker to be a sanctuary for you when you come home where it's not chaotic. And that's a beautiful thing. That's you serving his needs,
Yes.
So I was going to ask too.
Wait, I want to hear Jim's.
But also pepper it with this. I was going to ask about your family and planning, and then I want to know about dinner. So you can start with Corey's and then go into mine.
Well, dinner
is it a sanctuary for you, Jim?
On that list.
Yeah.
It absolutely is. I mean, Georgia creates that for me. It helps the kids recognize that I need just a little bit of downtime when I get home. But I have to tell you that when everybody is out and doing something and I come to the house and it is silent, even though there's the introvert in me craves that silence, I'm already missing the noise and everybody around. It is just part of our life. So yes, there is a bit of a sanctuary there, and it's a balance. There's something I like about it and something that I miss. I always want my kids here. I mean, our oldest has gone away to college and he came back home and I couldn't be happier. I love having everybody in the house with me.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a different, that's your sanctuary. Not that it has to be solace and you're a monk and you're just sitting at home, but
right.
It's your peace. And the fact that the kids honor that too, probably just, being kids, but not forgetting that dad's home and let's give dad some space, which is nice. Really nice.
Their kiss with them, dad, hi, mama, and then they just kind of go do their own thing, right? So.
Yeah. Okay, your part. What did you want him to talk about?
So I want to talk about dinner time at your home. Was that a planned thing? Was everybody, on their own, to each their own, or did you have an organized sit-down dinner every night?
We do our best to have as many sit-down dinners together that we possibly can. Now, with 5 kids, adults that are driving, that does not happen all of the time, but we get, what would you say, over half of the days of the week, unless somebody's working in the evening?
So let's go back a little bit, actually. One of the things we recognized early on was that the family unit is important. And the time that everybody gets to see each other is at dinner. So from growing from the kids little, we did mostly dinners. We didn't go out. We went out sometimes, but even then we were always still together, right? So, a lot of kids don't have that family time to find out what's going on with your kids. What was new at school? Like this one time for Michaela, we were teasing John.
Oh my.
This is hilarious. So
now, how old are they? How old are they at this point?
They're all in like elementary school. Georgie might be in pre-K, so the rest are in elementary school. And they would take the bus home, right? And in the morning, get them on the bus. So teasing, because occasionally you just have to tease your children. You're like, John, have you kissed a girl yet? And he was maybe in 4th grade, right? No, or 5th, somewhere there.
Something like that.
So then, we were just like curious. I went around, Chrissy, did you kiss a boy? No. Michaela, have you kissed a boy? Kayla?
She was like kindergarten at the time, right?
Oh,
First grade?
Was she? I don't remember their age yet, so it was really... Okay, so Georgie wasn't in school yet. So she was in 3rd grade. Wasn't she 3rd grade? I don't remember.
Close
but
enough.
she was like, Michaela, you kissed a boy?
I missed a memo here.
On the bus? Here you are at dinner table. We're just shocked, right? Little guy, Luke, that she liked so much. Anyways, they just hid and had a little smooch, apparently. I was like, okay. But we also didn't make it a big deal, because if you make something a big deal that is an innocent, right, then it becomes like difficult. So we're like, okay, so we went to the rest. Nicholas, Georgie, no. Everybody was a no. So it was just comical. We wouldn't have found that out if we hadn't been sitting eating at the table.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was just a funny story that came up. But generally, the time that we still get together is dinner. And we try to cook as much as we can. There's times that we don't, right? Sometimes it is fend for yourself. Go get food today. Go find what's in the fridge. Make yourself something.
But they are older now, too.
Yes.
So they have a life.
We taught them how to be self-sufficient.
Which is good.
So quickly together, so close together. In early childhood, you want to give them some ability to function on their own, not baby them per se, right? So from the very beginning, when they could get up, they would sometimes go and get, their snack or get something. They would come ask. So that was not just a go get what you want. We taught them how to do things early. So they did. And when we would cook, I would let them help, because that's part of learning. It's science and math and concepts. And so there's the early childhood education. So
I was just going to say, that's your education, childhood education gift right there that you're giving your own children. Yeah.
Correct. So that was a blessing, because I was able to do things with them that I think, if I had the Greek way, don't get dirty, don't touch that, it would have been quite opposite. Right?
Is that the Greek way?
Oh, yeah. Don't do that. Oh my gosh, God forbid somebody could get a little thing on your shirt. I'm like, yeah, if your kid's not dirty, then they're not learning. And that's
good.
Yeah, you learn that really quickly. The more they're in something, the more they understand, the quicker they understand, so they can do more things, right? You give them the tools early, and then they just develop those tools as they get older.
So did you guys agree on the fact that you would be a homemaker? I mean, did you do family planning? Because you have 5 kids. Sounds like they were almost back to back, or kind of how was that when you first started? And when did you decide that you wanted to start your family?
Yeah.
Well, we were open to starting our family as soon as we got married. And,
wow.
Good.
And we didn't want to wait. I was still in graduate school at the time. And in one of those early conversations over the phone, she's like, if we're getting married, you do realize you're going to need a job? Because her coming from Canada, she wasn't going to be able to work right away, because it takes time to get those visas in place and work through those details. But yes, I got a good job shortly thereafter. Didn't end up finishing my master's degree, but everything has fallen into place since. But we wanted to have kids early, and we wanted between 2 and 4 children, and I wanted at a minimum to have at least 1 boy and 1 girl. And that was really what I wanted to have.
You can say, God, I want those things.
That's right. Yeah. But here's again, you had a list. You had the list.
Had goals.
They worked out.
Yeah. So in that, let's talk about your children. Let's talk about who they are, how old they are, and what are their personalities.
Okay, so John is our firstborn. He is now 21. Oof, time flies. John was your excited child that was always learning and always had an idea and was always creating and was also 5 children at once. Like,
Very hyperactive.
super.
Yeah, but I think John is a genius, personally. I really do. He's off the scale, intelligent.
Yeah,
He's been able to challenge all of his skills, and it is really, really impressive to see what he's been able to do. And so I got to throw this in there. Being an engineer, there's part of me that wants all of my kids to be scientific and to enter some level of science. And I want them to succeed in the ways that I did. But I had to really dial back and recognize I didn't want my kids to enter a career where they weren't going to be happy. And then running the risk of me forcing them into something they didn't want to do and being unhappy, or do I just really get behind them and push them to do the things they want to do the most, even if there may not be the most return on investment? And I decided that I wanted to really be their cheerleader and them to do what they were going to be most happy doing so that they weren't miserable working the rest of the life and then ultimately resent me for forcing them down that path.
Look at
So I
that.
did get one engineer out of it, but we'll get to that
Yeah.
in a minute.
But that's a father's heart, guys. Did you hear that? That's a father's heart. So if you're newly married or your wife is pregnant or you have that new baby, understand that a father's heart is for the best for their child, whether that child does what you do in life or not. It's about surrounding them with the skills and the help to bloom in their gift.
Yeah.
So good for you, Jim. That's
John
great.
really, like as a kid, the way he built things, the way puzzles, most people with puzzles start with the outside and fit, put the inside together, right? John would put sections together, put the inside, and then finish the outside. And so he thought very differently. And it was very beautiful to see his brain explode with all the things that he had to build and do. So that was John. And then John, he was always kind of getting in trouble, of course. And then all of a sudden in high school, he just chilled out. And John is very chill now.
He really gained his ability to focus about his sophomore year in high school.
Yeah. And his jokes actually became funny.
That was a nice change.
So that's John. Let's see.
Chrissy.
Was,
Chrissy's a whole lot more like me. Quieter, more introverted, very happy being in a corner, not being in the center of attention at all, but has always had a fascination with food. Literally from birth.
From birth. She came out starving. She downed, what was it?
Now, Chrissy's 19. How old is Chrissy? 20 or 19?
20 now.
20. Gosh.
They're both like February, March babies, so they're about to change,
Mm-hmm.
We had challenges with Chrissy. She had some speech delay and she had some sensory issues. So we got her help early. And that was very, very important. Super.
Well, hold that thought. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have just been joining us, we are on an exciting journey with Jim and Georgia McDonald and their family, married after only 7 months and have been together or been married now well over 20 years, 5 children. We're getting into the backgrounds of their children. You're going to have to stay tuned for a part two coming up. Jim and Georgia McDonald.
Thank you, guys. And we'll see you on part 2 of Georgia and Jim McDonald on Get It Together Together.